Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Untapped Podcast. My name is Jacob Gabel.
And my name is Jacob Wurtz. Guys, welcome to episode 18 of season 3. If this is your first time joining us for the Untapped Podcast, first of all, thank you for choosing us, and we are so happy to have you with us here. We actually have 5 main formats of our podcast. First, we have Forging Fortitude episodes. In these episodes, we cover the mental side of our business and our brand. Okay, we cover a lot about our anecdotal experiences with mindset and mentality, and we give you guys advice and tips to then apply to your own life. Next, you have Physical Vitality episodes. You have 2 certified personal trainers here. That is what we do every day on a daily basis. Okay, in these episodes, we cover the physical side of our brand. All right, we go over fitness, gym, diet, nutrition, fitness programs like 75 Hard or the entire Live Hard program, just like Mitchell is on now with Phase 1. That's what we cover in those.
Third format, ladies and gentlemen. Our breaking news format is a current event-based format. Now, that is where we talk about sometimes where history connects to current events. It's also where we give our opinions on certain things going on in the world, and we also bring in articles that are currently going on in this world so we can talk over them, hence the breaking news aspect of that. Now, our fourth format is our Knights Table episodes. That is where our men's nights, the ones of you that have seen that on Instagram, that is where those come into play a lot of times. Now, keep in mind, we are a 25-year-old, 24-year-old, and a 23-year-old here. So we're bringing you on the journey of becoming that strong masculine man, the strong father when the time comes, strong husband when the time comes, because we believe masculinity is paramount to this current world. Now, our fifth format is our guest format, which is what we have for you today. That is when we sit down with somebody that brings you value. It could be a fitness professional, could be an entrepreneur, could be somebody that is basically a professional in their field as well. We learn a lot in these episodes because we sit down and talk to people that really are smart people, smarter than us a lot of the times. Now, guys, our last thing to introduce is our producer and my brother, Mitchell Gabel.
What's good, big guy?
I shouldn't say last thing to introduce because we do have somebody else with us today, as I mentioned. Little guest, Mr. JT Thomas. Hello, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing, everybody?
I knew there was going to be a pause. I feel like every time someone asks you a question, you always have a dramatic pause before you answer. I like it.
It emphasizes
Yeah, no, I
it.
like
100%
it.
emphasizes
Yeah, it's not a
every
roast
time.
at all. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be careful with what I say, how I say it, and because if I jump the gun too quickly, you never know what might come out.
True. And I've heard, too, that if you pause for like 3 to 5 seconds before you answer a question, it like gives you the power of the conversation.
I wasn't looking for power.
See, he just did it.
But
he just did it.
Dude, he's so good.
He
at
is
it.
so
I'm telling
powerful
you.
in this conversation
Yeah,
now.
I'm telling you right now.
All right.
So what's going on, dude?
You know what? I'm just really excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
I've listened to a few episodes. I was listening to one about if I was fat, which was
That was a lot of fun.
We've actually gotten a lot of feedback on that. People really liked the 5 stages of change that we went over.
Love
and whatnot.
it.
Yeah.
It's really cool how you broke that down. But hearing some of the people and the conversations that you have, just about everybody that you've had on, I've had some sort of in-person connection, contact with, and I can really vouch for the quality of people that you have on. Not to toot my own horn, I'm not saying anything because it's an honor to be here, just in general. But in the almost 7 months that we've known each other, it's been a pretty fun ride so far.
Yeah. I was thinking back on that today. How did we all meet?
We met on January 22nd.
Whoa. I remember things. You remember the exact date?
Because it was a day after my first half marathon of 2023. Spoiler alert. Maybe we'll get to that later. I don't know the topics of discussion.
That's right. It's a complete mystery to you.
Complete mystery to the topic of discussion today, ladies and gentlemen.
Right, but it was at the first GMBM meetup because where they had the listeners over at the Maryville hockey rink, where there's expecting 5 people, turned out to be 25, and they're bliss.
Dude, yeah, it was because of the fact that you literally right away you were as charismatic as you are now, probably actually even more in the 7 months I've gotten to know you, and that's why we instantly were like, we gotta talk to this guy.
Yeah,
we gotta have a conversation with this guy. This guy's got some things to say, and he has a lot of wisdom because of his age.
That's right. Yeah,
you don't get wisdom until you're 30, apparently. From what I've heard.
So you only have 1 year of wisdom.
2, because if you count being 30 and 31.
Okay. Interesting.
Which I am 31.
Just get that out of the way.
But hey, you're not even the oldest guy we've had on the podcast, so it's all good. You're right in the middle of the pack.
Can't wait.
Is that Will or Jeff who's older?
I think Will's 38, I want to say, and
man,
Jeff is
Will.
37. Hey, remember what we said in the clip we just posted? We cannot piss off Will. That is a titan right there.
That's right. That's true. I gotta be careful. I gotta be real careful.
We're gonna have a
about
knock
it
on
right
the door mid podcast
Oh
here.
my gosh.
Open up.
Is that a pretty good impression? What do you think, JT?
Let me close my eyes.
Take action.
Take action.
I felt like I was walking and talking with Will right there.
Right. I love that, man. So first, everyone that's listening or watching is not going to know you. So why don't you just tell a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what you do now, and then we'll get a little bit deeper with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for that introduction. So my name is JT Thomas. JT actually stands for John Thomas. It's not John Thomas
Sweet.
Thomas. Thank you. It's a strong American name for strong American man. And
That's like a lumberjack name, dude. That's badass.
True.
Yeah.
yeah, my middle name is Gerald. So like how
Gerald?
I have 3 first names.
Oh, whoa. Gerald Thomas. Hey, G-Eazy's real name is Gerald. So what?
So random, but I love it.
Yeah.
This is the only Gerald I know.
It's just a random name. You don't hear that name too often.
Or Gerald from Hey Arnold.
You lost us there.
Yep, we're out now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Must be a 30s thing.
It must be a wisdom thing. That'll be the reference. But I was born and raised in St. Charles, Missouri. Really had a relatively traditional upbringing. Grew up at the Catholic Church. I played baseball, played soccer like everybody else in St. Louis. I think that's almost a rite of passage.
Yeah.
And I was on a couple of baseball teams, a couple of soccer teams. Eventually, my athletic prowess did not come to the professional fruition that I had dreamt of as a child.
Sure.
But it's that's what happens. And little did I know, thinking back, there's probably a reason for it, which I didn't find out until I was a little over 20. But I graduated high school. I went to Mizzou my freshman year. Grew up pretty straight-laced. Didn't party, didn't drink, do anything like that. Freshman year, I discovered natural light and Mario Kart. And women.
Women. Interesting. That's a really fascinating find whenever you're like, oh, I can actually talk to these foreign creatures.
Oh, well, foreign like anybody outside of St. Louis was foreign
right?
to me. It's like a bunch of Chicago girls, Kansas City girls. It's like, okay, cool, neat.
It's like these people are different.
Yes. In a good way.
By the way, Natty Light is horrible. Are you gonna say you like it? What was that little pause?
I was going to say it's not the best.
Okay.
No, it's definitely not the best.
But this is what I would do.
Yeah.
Because I played guitar. As a hobby. Also, I play guitar. I sing. I have fun like that.
Whoa, I didn't know
Well,
that.
yeah, you're not gonna let us in on that?
Yeah. Actually, coincidentally, just like I was bored. I took some creative writing classes in high school. Took some poetry classes. Grew up listening to Blink-182. Classic.
Really solid music, actually.
I mean, it's timeless. There is no time to it.
Yeah.
And so I started playing guitar, but I brought a guitar up to Mizzou. What can you fit into a guitar case? You can fit 18 Natty Lights.
Well, I'll be damned.
That's it? I would have thought it'd be more, honestly.
Well, I had one of those.
big.
Is it because they have to be laying flat? Is that part of the problem?
And I didn't
stack
have a
them.
hard case, so it was more of a lighter duffel bag kind of guitar
Gotcha.
case. So
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
move around, you're shaking cans.
Yeah.
They're
They're going to know what's
So
up.
you were a freshman.
Yup.
like the freshmen who carried around backpacks around school and stuff like that. Just you could hear the beer cans rattling back and forth.
Yeah, I was a deviant. But
I just can't picture you as a deviant.
I know. I've lived multiple lives.
As we will get into
As we will get into.
as you continue here.
As I can. But it was due to that lack of discipline that my academics really suffered. And so my parents said, hey, this is unacceptable. We're not going to let you continue to waste our money at Mizzou. You're coming home.
Fair.
I said, okay. So I went back and I re-enrolled in the community college. In my grades, believe it or not, when you don't have access to such a extensive social life, your grades actually improve.
Yeah.
It's
very
correlation
true.
does not infer causation, but you can see a line of best fit.
Right.
Yep.
And I was working part time at the 4-star establishment, Ruby Tuesday, just trying to pay for my school. Oh, I'm sorry.
Unlimited fries right there.
That's
Well,
Red Robin.
I
That's
don't-
Red Robin.
I've never.
I swore they do.
I've
that.
never
No.
been to Ruby Tuesday ever
No, it's good.
in my life.
It's 4-star.
4-star on a lunch.
Yeah.
3-star made for dinner. But so I was paying my way through school. I had to be like, all right, if you're going to pay for your education, like you're going to have to earn it. You're going to have to pay your way through it. So, it's like one thing my parents did instill was to earn what you get. Work hard. Don't quit something before you have something else lined up. And so there was one night where I was, doing the side work, stacking cups, and I got really lightheaded for about 5 minutes. And that's really something to take into consideration. And as someone who was completely healthy, never had any health concerns, I didn't really think anything of it either. But my parents said, hey, you should go to a doctor. And so they said, all right. I went to my physician at the time, and they said, well, you look okay, but let's do a blood test. And so now we're going to get deep. We went from beer and Mario Kart to what led me to the path I'm on now.
Sure.
And, I had just turned 20 years old.
I was about to ask, how old were you at this time?
Yeah, just
okay.
turned 20. So just a couple years younger than where you are now.
Sure.
And so kind of think about if you put yourself in that position, like where you were, what your priorities were, what you were doing, the fun you were having, things like that.
Right.
I looked, the visual assessment looked okay. And they said, all right, let's do a blood test just to kind of see if there's any underlying conditions that we can't see.
Because was it just this one instance of the lightheadedness, or was it continuing to happen?
Well, it was that one incidence. And so, but it was so prolonged.
Sure.
And you said it was 5 minutes long, right?
About 5 minutes of being lightheaded.
That's unusual.
That's
especially for a healthy male at your age.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that was like a sign of like, well, if you're anemic, you don't have that as much, the red blood cells carrying oxygen. You become weak. And so kind of thinking back, going back to when I was playing sports, is like I used to be the fast kid. I used to be the fast one, stealing bases, playing soccer. I was scoring goals. And then eventually, as I was getting older and before I hit high school, I kind of started slowing down. And I was like, I wasn't as fast. I'm like, oh, this is,
Interesting.
But looking back,
Sure.
in the moment, I didn't think anything of it. I thought I was just like, hey, I'm just out of shape.
Yeah.
I'm not practicing as much. I'm not putting as much work or effort into this.
Yeah. But looking back, it was unusual.
Looking back.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
And so at that time, whenever they did the blood test, they're like, you need to go see a doctor. You need to go to the hospital right now. You get a blood transfusion. I'm like,
What the hell?
right. And so they did it. Well, they first said, hey, this could be an anomaly. Like, could have been an error. We'll have to do this test again tomorrow. Like, okay. Like, they're like, don't do anything different. Just get this test tomorrow. Test came back almost the exact same numbers. And like the odds of this happening, like 2 errors this size is astronomical.
Yeah.
So I went directly to Mercy off of 270, and they're like, yep. So I had an emergency blood transfusion, had 3 pints of blood put in.
Oh man.
And yeah, so it was tough. And so, I mean, I'm in the hospital chilling, not thinking anything of it. Like, okay, yeah, I'm getting blood put in, starting to feel a little bit better. And they said, we're gonna have to do an ultrasound and a biopsy. So, of my kidneys. And so the ultrasound showed that my kidneys were half the size they should be, and the blood test revealed that they were functioning at less than 10%.
Holy cow.
So
Wow.
your kidneys don't cough. How are you supposed to know
Sure.
if to check your kidneys, which happens to be one of the top 10 killers of Americans
Wow.
as of 2019? I'm like, it's like either number 9 or number 10.
The only reason I'm not surprised by that now is knowing you, because of the awareness you brought to it. And I kind of looked into it and I was like, okay, this is actually very common,
Yeah.
which is freaky because you're right. You can't just, because the lightheadedness was the only sign you got. Outside of that, there was no other physical symptoms. And it's like, so you're right. You can't just open up and check the kidneys.
Right. And honestly,
Crazy.
thankfully you were at work and not driving or mid baseball game or, something quote unquote important where you're moving around and, could potentially endanger other lives too. If you were like driving or something, like it'd be insane,
Yeah.
and you can't do anything. Yeah. Anyway, continue on.
Yeah, and so they said, all right, we're going to have to do a biopsy. So if you don't know what a biopsy is, they take a large gauge needle, stick it into whatever tissue they need to. They stick a smaller gauge needle, go in and do a little click and get a tissue sample.
Gotcha. Okay.
Very painful.
You're going to wait for it.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound particularly fun.
They did some local like numbing, but I mean,
It only helps so much.
Yeah.
Yep.
exactly. So at that point, it revealed that my kidneys were 90% scarred.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so the official diagnosis was focal segmental glomerulosclerosis.
That's
Bless you.
words. That's a lot of words.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you hear it enough, when you say it enough, you get a little bit more better at pronouncing it.
It's a little easier. Pronunciation. Pronouncing it.
Is there an acronym or something for that?
FSGS.
Perfect.
FSGS.
Yep.
Perfect.
Exactly. So
That's a lot of letters.
I'm not going to learn that in the podcast right now. I can tell you that.
FSGS.
You know what?
FSGS.
well, if you break it down, so focal and then glomerulo. So your glomeruli are the portions and the segments of your kidney that do the filtering. So if you ever see a dissection of a kidney, you can kind of see these little pockets where these nephrons are. And so when those are scarred, they can't function properly. They can't excrete toxins. They can't do anything. So and they were half the size they should be, 90% scarred, functioning at less than 10%. And you don't get any symptoms until they're at that level.
Yeah, right.
Because your body can actually do miracles and like will balance things out and look for homeostasis.
Right, right.
But then it gets to the point of no return. You're like, you're dead.
Yeah.
So it's like if I hadn't gotten that blood test, if I hadn't gone to the doctor when I did, that's instance of one of facing my mortality. I faced it a couple more times, but even before I receive, spoiler alert, before I receive a transplant, I nearly die twice. I die once and I nearly die a second time. But
Cliffhanger.
Bad MF. Dude. Oh my, that's some savage shit on your part. Well, you're sitting here talking to us just, oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, if you
I wonder why we brought you on,
Well, you didn't know that until now.
No, honestly, yeah.
It's for, but if you face death enough, you lose fear of it and you appreciate life a little bit more. So it was at that time of the diagnosis where they said, you're going to need dialysis and you're going to need a transplant. And so we all know the quality of hospital food. For lunch, I had a smoothie. It was strawberry. I tasted it twice because I threw up after hearing that like I needed a transplant. I'm like 20 years old. Like,
right.
It's
naturally, yeah.
It's shock.
And healthy too.
Apparently.
Oh, well,
and so, one thing that I want to emphasize, and for the people listening here, which are, generally, the younger population, younger adult population, I should say, is talk to your doctors now. Like, don't wait until you're at the point where, like, this is preventable. Because, like, if you can test early, they could detect it, any sort of degradation sooner, it's going to save your life. It can save your life, and it can save you from dialysis, which is a whole nother beast that I had to tackle. But dialysis 3 times a week, 4 hours a session. So 12 hours a week, I'm sitting on this chair, 50 years younger than, the person next to me.
Oh my gosh.
And, school had to be put on hold. So it was like at a time where I wanted to make academics a priority. I couldn't.
You couldn't. Yeah.
I was like, all right, now I got to focus on my health. So I was like, you think about a regular college kid, they already have to juggle school, work, social life, family. Now throw waiting for a transplant that you don't know when may come into that mix.
Yep.
While everyone else around you, your peer group is, graduating, earning their degree, going on with their life, getting married, and you're sitting in this chair.
Yeah.
Like, what would that do to you? Like, how would so it was tough. It was very tough.
So I guess my question, because you mentioned you were sitting next to somebody 50 years older than you in this scenario. What are the percentages, if you even know them, compared to somebody at your age? Like, how likely is it at somebody at your age at 20 at the time compared to somebody that's maybe 65 plus? Is it much more likely for older population, or can it just happen?
Yes. So yes to both. So there are a lot of different factors that go into your likelihood of being affected by chronic kidney disease, which is what the general terminology is, because there's different kinds of chronic kidney disease, but things like your demographic, like your race. Like there are some races that are genetically predispositioned to have other chronic illnesses like hypertension or diabetes that are huge contributors to needing to be on dialysis or damaging kidney function. And then there's the elderly population, which are kind of like, you would expect that to happen, but it doesn't discriminate. Like chronic disease and chronic kidney disease and needing a transplant doesn't care if you're a young, handsome guy.
Particularly handsome. Yep. Yeah.
It doesn't care. It doesn't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. It doesn't care if you're gay or straight. It doesn't care if you're young or old, man or woman. Like, it'll get you.
I'm sure the Democrats would try to blame it on Republicans, though.
Yeah, but that's what I have, as I've gone through this process, it is the most American thing that I can think of, is to be caring for a community of people that are impacted like this. Like, I don't care like what your identity is.
Right.
I'm gonna fucking help you.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna reach out my hand to bring you up to my level. Like that's the best thing about this whole entire experience, is because I've met people who've been in my shoes, like, and it's incredible. It's like, you've been through this, you know what it feels like. You have that empathy, because empathy is a huge thing.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't care about any other label. Like, you need help, I got you.
Just another human being at that point.
Dude.
It's a wild concept, but yes.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah.
What
Caring about others.
What was, I mean, you kind of described it there, mostly shock is what it sounds like, but what was kind of the emotion leading up to the actual transplant when you found out you were going to get one, and then after it was done? Like, what was your emotion? What was your family's emotion towards all this? Like, what was kind of the vibe of you and the family?
So of course, my parents were terrified, and
Naturally,
they were divorced when I was, I think, 10 or 11. So it was tough because both of their son was impacted by it. So it was really tough because it was almost like they were competing about who's caring for me
During the
dialysis
and all that. Okay, yeah.
And everything like that. And so that was really tough, having them even in the same hospital room, like together. Like it got pretty contentious. But I would say, I was very fortunate to be friends with a wide variety of people growing up. And so, like, I didn't fit in with a certain kind of clique. I could talk to, I could communicate, I could be friends with, I could shoot the shit with anybody. So it was like I had a flood of people who wanted to be a donor, but for whatever reason, they just couldn't be, because when you're a living donor, they take your health into consideration as a priority. It's like, if you have to be the healthiest of the healthy people, donate. They're not going to take someone who has a risk of even kidney stones, or if you have high blood pressure, because they don't want to put you at risk to be, compromise your health.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like,
absolutely. Yeah.
and so eventually, I got to the point where, people would say, if you're sick, what do people kind of say for you? Like, I'll pray for you. I heard that so many times. I got numb to it. I could finish people's sentences. Like, I questioned my own faith. I questioned God's existence. There was a time where during this whole process, this is probably one of my favorite stories. I'm getting chills even thinking about it. But I was on dialysis. At this time, I graduated from Ruby Tuesday to Olive Garden.
Step up.
Yep.
Good breadsticks.
Super salad? No, it's soup or salad. I had to make those jokes all the time. I had to have fun with it. But there was one particular evening where it was an awful Friday night. It was like, I was there, I was working a double shift. People were not being as gratuitous as I would have liked. And at the time, I was living with my dad, because he lived 4 miles from school, 1.5 miles from work, and about 4 miles from dialysis. So it was
made sense.
A centrally located thing.
Yeah.
And so one night after my shift, I got home at 11 o'clock, and we talked until about 2 a.m. Just talked about my frustrations, saying, like, why did this happen to me? Because, it's tough. You want to portray an image of strength, and you don't want to show people how bad it is or how much pain you're in.
Even to your father. Yeah.
Even to your father.
100%.
And so we talked for 3 hours, and like, my room was in the basement. I have no windows. It's a fire hazard. Looking back, it probably would not pass code. But
it's a dungeon.
It was awesome. Because you can go to sleep. You don't know if it's 3 a.m. or 3 p.m.
Yes.
It's dark.
Yep.
And so I was in my room. I was in my bed. I didn't say any Hail Marys, no Our Fathers. I just said, hey, God, if you're real, prove it. I'm calling your bluff. And so I had dialysis Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. So Thursday mornings, because I would play open mics at coffee shops on Thursday evening. So I was able to adjust my schedule to be able to do that. But so on Sunday night, I went from 6:45 until 10:45 whether it was AM or PM. So I was on dialysis and I had a particularly large amount of water, or fluid, I should say, because that's what the whole point of dialysis is, to remove the excess fluids, remove the toxins from your body that your kidneys would normally flush and get rid of.
Gotcha.
Filtrate, yeah.
Which is why you have to do it so many times a week. Which
Exactly.
makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I was drinking less than 30 ounces of water a day.
Because that's all they wanted you to drink or allowed you?
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
So I didn't even pee for over 2 years. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. When your kidneys don't work, you don't got to pee.
Wow.
But
I almost thought he was joking just because
I know, me too. I'm like, wait
and
a second.
I was
Is
like,
he being funny?
I was like looking at his eyes. I was like, this man's being serious right now.
yeah.
It's like, holy shit.
Yeah. But that Sunday evening, I'm listening to music, on my phone, and I had the worst, most excruciating pain, excruciating cramps in my legs that I've ever had until actually half marathon number 6. Spoiler alert.
Ugh.
And and I got to the point where I was just like, I turned down my music. It was still, and I pressed pause. So I didn't know what was playing. I was like just saying like, God, please help me. God, please help me. God, please help me. I had to have the nurse come over, bring a bag of saline to help, balance my electrolytes. And I was walking around the dialysis center, cold as hell, pitch black. And I get back to my chair and I unlock my phone, and the song that was playing was Have Faith in Me by A Day to Remember.
Oh
Whoa,
my gosh,
I just
dude.
got chills.
And the line of the chorus says, I'd never let you down and I never will. I'm just like, I was like, my faith like rebounded.
I mean,
And
that is...
so it was like, if that's not a sign,
Give
I don't know what
yourself to Christ, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah.
Give yourself to Christ. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so,
Ooh.
that really renewed my strength mentally going through this process, because I was prepared to stay on dialysis for the rest of my life. When you have about 2 dozen people trying to reach out, trying to save your life, and for whatever reason they can't, they start to lose hope. Until I got this message from this girl that I went to high school with, and I hadn't talked to in 3 years. Just out of the blue, and she says, hey, I got your number from Greg. I'm like, I already had her number because we were friends in high school and we had an overlapping friend
Sure.
group. Like, I literally helped your dad put gravel in the backyard around your pool, but it's okay.
But we'll forget all that.
We'll forget. But it was interesting because she lives in Spokane, Washington. I'm like, what are you doing? She asked
Sure.
me, hey, what does it take to be a donor? And not thinking anything of it. I'm like, oh yeah, here's the information. I don't know if I could have been any more nonchalant about passing along information that could potentially save my life. Like, hey, here you go. But little did I know that for 1.5 years before she even reached out to me, she did her research. She watched a kidney transplant take place at the hospital. She consulted with her friends and family, who all told her not to do it because of a hypothetical situation. Because what if one day your kid needs one?
Yeah.
It's a completely valid thought, emotion to have as a parent. Because why, you want your kid, like, what if something happens to your kid?
Yes.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But she defied her parents, who are both in the medical industry. Her dad's a vascular surgeon, so he kind of knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or stepdad, I should say. And but she went through. She was like, "This feels like a God thing. I got to do this." And so, I set up a secret GoFundMe for her to cover her rent, her utilities, whatever she would need. My uncle at the time was a chief pilot for Southwest, so he got her plane ticket. My goal was to reach $2,000 in less than 24 hours. Guess how much I raised?
20,000.
Close. 2,300. You could have said any number. I would have said close. Because it was over 2,000.
You would have been like 250 grand. And you'd have been like, oh, that's right on the money.
Close.
Couple dollars off.
But I thought of it as a way that, hey, if people couldn't donate in this regard, they could at least help in this capacity.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so there were people I was expecting, okay, yeah, $5 donations here and there. Some people donated $250.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, what did I do to deserve this? And I still don't know. It's almost like I do kind of feel like I have some kind of imposter syndrome because so many people die waiting for a transplant. I'm like, what did I do to deserve this? But the testing, she still had to go through the testing, and things started to progress, start to move forward. And then they had the final test that says you're a match. And so she sent me this sticky note. It was blue, just with the words June 24th written on it. No other text, nothing. It said June 24th. I'm like, shit, that's in 3 weeks.
You're like,
my
what?
schedule's open.
I guess I can fit you in.
Right.
To save my life.
Casual.
I'll make it work. Don't worry. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, when you're working at Olive Garden and you're at the community college just getting like 4 credit hours a semester.
I'm working that night, actually.
That'd be crazy.
Well, it was a Tuesday and I had to be there at 5 a.m, but no big deal. But it was kind of one of those things where you looking back and, I told you about the other times that I faced my mortality is because when you're on dialysis, another thing is that your diet is so strict. You have to limit your phosphorus, your potassium, and your sodium. So as certified personal trainers or CPTs, as I say in the industry, like you guys are aware, you guys are up to date of the importance and the roles that those nutrients play in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So potassium, what it does, it kind of helps with the heart pumping, muscle contraction. And there was one day I was not as dialed in on my nutrition as I should have been.
Wow.
And I had some broccoli like after a shift one day, and I had some like small fries from McDonald's at the time, just kind of like in passing. And I was walking between classes at the community college. I was eating those peanut butter and cheese crackers, those things?
Oh man,
The orange ones?
Those orange ones.
Way too good.
Oh, yeah.
Well, all of a sudden, I was chewing on it and started falling forward. Completely lost consciousness.
Oh, man.
Broke my jaw. Split.
Oh my gosh.
I landed face first. I lost consciousness before hitting the ground. I woke up with a police officer kind of giving me some smelling salts and regained consciousness, and I couldn't really move my jaw. I was in no pain, but like my jaw was like pushed back, broken vertically on both sides, smack dab in the middle.
Goodness gracious.
And I still had those crackers in my mouth. And so I was like, I couldn't talk. So yeah. So like I wrote down.
You're like, I'm gonna die eating these things. One way or another.
Right. Well, turns out that the level of my potassium, like, because it's like 3.5 to 5.5. I don't know the exact like measurements. Mine was at a level 8. So if I was 20 years older, I would have been dead. And
oh my gosh.
yeah. And so also I was on dialysis. Well, you got to keep track of your blood pressure. Got to make sure your blood pressure is in check. And so I was taking minoxidil. And if you don't know what minoxidil is, it's one of the active ingredients in Rogaine. So the reason why I can grow a beard is because it's a side effect of the medication. But it's a very potent medication for hypertension. And so, I had some fun with insurance, and there was my doctors upped my dosage without notifying the insurance. So if you increase your dose of something, are you going to run out of it sooner or on time?
Sooner.
Thank you.
It's gonna be sooner.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to ask.
Surprise.
Yeah. And so I was trying to refill the medication, and at CVS they said, yeah, your insurance isn't going to let you refill it. And so I'm like, okay, didn't think anything of it. 4 days later, I was on dialysis again, and my blood pressure was 205 over 128.
Dude, what in the world?
And normal is like what, like 120 over
120 over 80,
over 80,
70. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And so I was on dialysis, went through a dialysis session. They were pumping me through these medications to help trying to bring it down. I had to go to the ER, and again, they're pumping me with these medications to lower my blood pressure. Well, if you're laying down in a prone position, and I'm a crazy guy, and I like brushing my teeth before going to bed. And
A crazy guy?
yeah.
That's insane, dude.
Dude, that's like Jeffrey Dahmer type level.
Did you know that before we brought him on?
Yeah.
We don't like people to brush their teeth on this podcast.
We're gonna edit that part out.
Well, why do you think they're sitting so far away from me? It's like,
I mean, probably because
That
our
shit
breath
stinks.
smells.
damn. But I'm getting all these medications pumped into me all day, and then I stood up. What happens to your blood pressure? Bottoms out. I end up coding. So code blue, which means you don't have pulse. You know, so I was in the ICU and they had to revive me, and so that was my 3 times of facing my mortality before receiving a transplant. And it's just like those experiences are forever etched in my brain as far as, hey, this is how fragile life is.
Yeah.
But going back to the transplant, you know, when somebody chooses to be a living donor, they are making a permanent decision to save somebody's life, giving literally a piece of themselves, so that I may live, with no guarantees of how long it's going to last, how well I'm going to care for it, and what I'm going to do with my life. And those things were, you know, immediately just that's my responsibility. You know, I can't mess this up.
Yeah.
So I've never missed a dose. I've never missed a lab draw. I've never missed an appointment. But because of her decision to donate a kidney, I was able to go back to Mizzou, because while everyone else was doing it, graduating, earning their degree, that's all I wanted to do was to finish my education where I started it. So I went back to Mizzou, and I had a 0.67 GPA cumulatively because of my past decisions, my past habits. So I had to write multiple letters of appeal, and I was on the absolute last academic probation.
Yep.
It's like, if you were a college or a university, would you accept somebody with that kind of GPA?
That's a big risk. It's a risk.
Yeah. Into your institution. And so I had to write multiple letters of appeal. And again, I had to pay my way through school. I was able to wait tables at a high-end steakhouse. And
Dude, it keeps upgrading.
Was it actually high end this time?
it was the highest of all the ends. I went.
Applebee's.
No, it's CC City Broiler. I'll name drop it.
Sounds gas.
Anything with broiler in the name,
That's
you
what I'm
know
saying.
it's going to be good. I don't know what it is, but it's insane.
Well, you know, you got to think about, you know, going from Ruby Tuesday. It's like, okay, you want some more unlimited cheddar breadsticks? Okay. Then you graduate and saying, okay, do you want super salad? Now I'm asking how people want their Wagyu filet done.
Wagyu is expensive. It's good stuff.
It's a $60 steak, and I'm out here just
Not bad.
not bad. You know, but because I was put in that environment, and at that time I got to meet some wonderful people. But then again, it's like you go back into this academic environment where there's a lot of this social exposure. It's still kind of like there's a lot of temptations about like your focus and things like that. It's like I'm going back to this school where nobody has probably gone through a similar situation. The people at this school
Very
right
unlikely.
now, as
Yeah.
far as I know,
Yeah.
like you guys have just graduated from high school, out here doing this. You're 18 years old. I'm 23 at the time. You know, going back to school, going back to Mizzou, like in these freshman classes, it's like, it's again kind of a different form of isolation because of just my life experience.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, I didn't do any frat stuff, or I never went to any football games because I was working. Again, different responsibilities, different sacrifices that I had to make because, taking my medications every single day, I brought it to work. And so, you know, the restaurant has this side room for meetings, reservations, parties, whatever.
Sure.
This, that, and the other. You got to pay extra for the other. But there was one particular evening. It was a Monday night.
This place is giving out happy endings or something.
Well, it's happy beginnings too. My gosh. I mean,
Deshaun Watson give you guys a visit?
well, he came and we told him to beat it.
Let's go.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh my gosh.
And that's why we brought him on, ladies and gentlemen.
Love
Not
it.
the kidney transplant.
He's a comedian.
I'm moonlight as a comedian. Yeah, I'm not going to quit my day job.
and a mulch enthusiast,
Yeah,
of course. That has to be thrown in there too.
Compost and biosoils, whatever you want.
And likes contributing to the lithium battery crisis that this country has. No comment there.
Do you have an iPhone by chance?
No. I'm completely off the grid.
Really?
I do. I'm also not wearing an Apple Watch.
An Apple
right now.
Watch? Okay.
No, it's not me.
Okay.
No.
Just wondering,
No. I am completely solar powered.
It's
As a human.
the only thing that's really solar powered right now are plants, homie, and I don't see you photosynthesizing. But back to the conversation at hand.
Yes, please.
Side room.
Oh, man.
There's a side room.
Side room.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a Monday night. Like I worked Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. Monday night during the summer, I'm like, hey, I need to make a couple extra bucks. And I'm like, hey, does anyone want to go home? Someone happened to want to go home that evening. Mm-hmm. And this gal who works the large parties was saying, hey, JT, they're talking about transplants over there. You should go say hi. Like, so if I didn't tell my coworkers about my experience, they wouldn't have
Right.
Made the
yeah.
connection.
Made
or,
the connection.
Yeah, sure.
So I walk into the side room and I see on this projector one of the medications that I take on a daily basis. I'm thinking, okay, I should probably introduce myself. So
Yeah.
me being, the shy, reserved person that I am, I go over to the rep and I say,
Super quiet.
thank you,
Yeah.
reserved.
Just cannot handle conversation.
This is a chore right now.
We forced him to do this.
At gunpoint, actually, I believe.
We don't own firearms.
Don't listen, ATF. No.
Golly. But I introduced myself, say, hey, I take that medication. And he was a little bit taken back.
What?
And, I shared
awesome.
a brief story of like how I got to where I am now. And I was still in school at the time, still pursuing my degree. And he goes, do you mind if I share your information and story to our marketing team? I said, twist my arm, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the worst that could happen? But also, what's the best that could happen? And so they reached out and they said, hey, we're actually in the process of beginning a patient ambassador program, and we want to focus it around you. We want to build it around you.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. And so the whole point of that was I was able to, while in school, school was a priority. They were able to send me, I was able to travel across the country and talk with transplant support groups. I was able to talk to nurses, dialysis centers, surgeons. I got to go to the transplant games in Salt Lake City.
What's that? I've
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
heard of
Give
that.
us the rundown there.
So it is a collective multi-sport kind of festival event that celebrates donors, recipients, even donor families. So people who lose their lives, and like a parent, if their kid loses their life and they decided to donate their organs, like they're invited. It's just a celebration of just the gift of life.
Yeah.
And they do different
Awesome.
sporting events, like even ballroom dancing. They have badminton, they have 5Ks, they have basketball, they have all these different, just active sports that you can win medals and things like that. And I was there as a as a representative of one of the sponsors, but I was also invited to be a patient ambassador or advocate on the state and federal level. So I was up in DC for Kidney Day on the Hill a couple times. I got to speak with congressional staff members
Jeez, dude.
regarding bills about the Living Donor Protection Act, which it lowers the barrier for people who want to become a living donor, because that way their insurance premium doesn't go up just because they're an organ donor, and they get entitled up to 30 days of paid leave if they choose to be an organ donor. So it's one of those things where it's like, hey, if we want to get more people to do this, let's incentivize and ease a burden that they would have.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
And then also, I helped with getting some bills passed both federally and locally. Again, I'm just a part of this. I'm not one, mainstreaming it, spearheading it. I'm part of a group of people and advocates who helped get the extension of the...
This is pretty incredible, though, JT.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is
no,
pretty
this is
incredible.
super cool.
Yeah.
Well, if I didn't pick up that shift on a Monday night, if I didn't go back to
Exactly.
if I didn't get my transplant at the time that I did, if I didn't go back to Mizzou at the time that I did,
God's working in your life.
it's really, I hope it's evident. Hopefully I can be an example
I would, yeah.
of his
Yeah.
work. But also the extension of the medication coverage. So right now, as it's in the past, you were only covered for your medications under Medicare for 36 months. What happens after day 1, month 37?
Yeah, right.
And if you don't have, at the time I was not married, so I didn't have a spouse that I could be, under her benefits. I wasn't eligible under my parents' benefits to receive, be under their insurance. Like, what am I going to do? I'm still a student. So it's like a lot of people lose their transplant because they can't afford these medications, which are extremely expensive if you don't have the insurance.
Of course they are. Yeah.
And so, all of that happened while I was still pursuing a degree. And so, believe it or not, I went from a 0.67 to a cumulative 2.67 GPA.
Which means you were not messing around.
No.
When you went back. If you brought it up, because it's hard to bring up your GPA. It is very difficult.
Especially that much.
GPA. Yeah.
Well, I mean, credit by credit. My last semester, I had a 3.7. I finished with all A minuses.
Awesome.
So
dude.
I'm like, I finished it off, and so I'm like, okay. I graduated in fall of 2019, and then I'm looking for a job. I'm putting out my resume. I'm reaching out to my contacts, and for some reason or another, there just isn't any openings. There isn't any options. There isn't anything in the field that I'm wanting to pursue. Well, what happened March of 2020? What
was that though? The pandemic, I think,
it
is
was
when that started.
The virus had what, a 50% death rate, give or take?
No, I think it was killing everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember because they had to dig those mass graves in New York.
And China, everybody was
People were
falling over.
falling
Yeah.
dead in Wuhan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to be lost in translation, but at the time I was, I've already been immunocompromised for the past handful of years.
Yep.
Where strep is potentially fatal, tuberculosis is potentially fatal.
Yep.
Influenza is potentially fatal for me. It's like, so I've already faced this kind of struggle.
Yeah.
Or this kind of reality, because I would get sick more often than other people. I would be sick longer than other people. And so, when COVID hit, there was a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of people were finally caring about a community of people that were immunocompromised for the first time in ever.
I was going to say, you could probably speak on that pretty heavily.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're giving a shit about everybody that's immunocompromised. All of a sudden.
Exactly. But also it was like, hey, my health is not your responsibility. My health is my responsibility, and I do a pretty damn good job of doing it. Because I've already have the incentive for me is not going back on dialysis. And the incentive for me is somebody gave a portion of their life for me. A portion of themselves, I should say. Like, I'm not going to change my routine based on a virus that we don't know a lot about, getting conflicted information about this. Data's not really being presented consistently, truthfully, accurately. And so I was extremely blessed that where I had people who reached out to me, who paid for my groceries. Like, they would pay for Uber Eats to deliver things for me.
Wow.
And so it was, and I'm like, okay, well, shoot, my insurance is running out on April 15th of 2020. Like, I'm not eligible for any kind of extension. And so I had to put things into my own hands. And I'm like, well, if I can't go to a job fair, I'm going to create my own job fair. So I was living by myself in an apartment, first floor. I had an ironing board because I ironed all my clothes. I had a tripod, and I had my phone. And so I'm looking around, and some of the cameras that we're using is, from a phone, a camera phone. And you can really give out a message and speak to the world in that regard. And so I wore a suit. I had about a 2.5 off-the-cuff video saying, hey, this is my experience. This is what I want to do. If you think I'd be a value-added asset to your organization, contact me. And I actually had a little briefcase and a copy of my resume. I had about 20 copies, and I pretended like I was handing it to somebody, like actually there. And I was like, all right, Spielberg, cut. And that got viewed about 10,000 times.
Let's go.
And, yeah. Again, like, there have been people in my life who just refuse to let me quit, who have just provided outlets, answers, support. Like, none of what I've done, because I'm doing a lot of really cool things, and I can acknowledge that, but it's not without these other people behind me. And so a company reached out to me called CareDX. They said, I think this is really creative. Let's set up a conversation. And so they are a company based out of California, a diagnostic company that specializes in donor-derived cell-free DNA tests. So basically, when you receive a transplant, you get these labs drawn just to check, the functioning of your transplant. And so, which can be affected by your prescription, your medication levels, and things like that. Well, this test looks for the donor's DNA. So if there's an inflammatory response, more of their DNA is going to be present in your blood. So it can indicate, with a ratio of, hey, is this person doing well? Or, hey, is this person at risk of rejection? And so the higher your number is, the higher, the chances of rejection are. So I started working for that company, for working remotely, blessed beyond belief. After my lease ended in Colombia, I moved back home with my mom and kind of settled here and was able to continue my job and being able to talk with people who had gone through a similar experience from the same transplant center that I got my
What a
transplant.
blessing.
Wow. That's pretty wild. So how old were you at that time then?
So whenever I graduated, I would have been 27.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So this was not that long ago.
Not that long
I
ago.
guess you said, March,
Yeah.
April 2020. So, a little over 3 years ago, dude. I mean,
27, 28. Yeah, I would have just turned 28.
yeah, that's a pretty incredible start to not only this episode, but just, that middle portion of your life so far. I mean, it's just the beginning of what you're doing now. So talk about what you're doing every month this year.
The big dog
Yeah.
that we're here for.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting because at my job I was constantly asking about ways that I can be involved with the community. I was asking for ways to advance my career within the organization. Like, how do I go from this step to a next path of my career? Like, what are the steps necessary? And I was getting no feedback. I was not getting any sort of kind of response. I was not getting, I didn't feel like they really valued my experience, outside of my job. And so I was like, I want to do more. I have the capacity to do more. I have the time to do more. Because if you're working remotely, it's like I can, clock out at 4:30. Once 4:30 hits, my phone is off, my email's off. I can do whatever. And so I wanted to do something more to help the transplant community. So like during COVID, what I did is like every month or so, whatever, I would try to find ways to maintain my health. So I was like, how can I give myself the best chance? If I got infected by this virus, I'm young, which I have I have age on my side. Even though I'm immunocompromised, how can I give my body the best chance
Love that.
to handle this?
Yeah.
Right.
And so there were times where I was like, all right, I'm going to do no Chick-fil-A May and run every day. So I was like doing something dietary and something physical
Sure.
to level up. And in June, I was like, I'm going to run 100 total miles in the month. So it's like average a little over 3 miles per day. I could break it up and, working remotely, I'm like, all right, I can just run 2 miles in the morning, 2 miles in the evening,
Sure.
whatever. And so I was like, oh, shoot. So that portion, that challenge, that task was like, all right. So for the past 3 years, I've been doing 100 miles every June. Last June, also to go in line with my transplant anniversary. I'm like, all right, my transplant was on June 24th. So like the month of June is pretty important to me. So it's like, how can I just really push myself to show what a successful post-transplant is like, saying, hey, this person cares about their body. This person cares about their gift and their opportunity. That's something that we can look up to as an example of, like, how can we duplicate that?
Yeah.
How can we get more people like that?
And not letting it cripple you either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not letting that fear, which, I did get the first 2 doses of the COVID vaccine just because of, at that time, I thought that was the best choice for me. And
Yeah.
I never once, wanted to force people. I thought it was a little bit ridiculous that people like were forcing it just on my behalf. They're like saying, well, just because you're not taking it. I'm like, first of all, again, my health is my responsibility. Do what you want
Love
with
it.
your health. If that's your decision, cool. If you want to wear a mask, cool. But going back to this, I was like, it was towards the end of it was December of. Well, I actually also did 75 hard, and ironically, the day after, or like a couple days later, I contracted COVID
After 75?
after 75 hard. And guess who's still here? I even drank the gallon of water every day, and I didn't go to the hospital.
Your
You didn't
body,
get water poisoning?
No.
your body was like, you're being soft. COVID.
Yeah, I was like,
You should have gone right into phase 1. COVID.
right. But it was crazy because it was at Christmas time, and my now fiance, but girlfriend at the time, we were driving down to Destin, and she was kind of sick. And one of her, it was like the day before, like she said one of her family members had COVID, and it's like, do you still want to go? I'm like, I'll be okay. And so like found out I get COVID, and I'm down in Destin in Florida. Guess what they had? Monoclonal antibodies.
Let's go.
So we go up to this this facility that they had, and they were all booked. And I said, "Hey, I'm a kidney transplant recipient. Is there any way that you can squeeze me in?
Move some things around.
Yeah, I'm a compromised person. Would love to be, receiving this treatment." And so like, all right, we'll see if we can get you in. So go down to the beach and get a call saying, "Hey, we have an opening. Can you come back?" And I said, "Yep." We literally just parked, got to the beach, and they called me. So I went back.
You go, we're actually going to chill at the beach.
Yeah. It's like when
Can you guys come to the beach, actually? Yeah.
Well, when in Rome.
Right. Right.
Roving medical vehicle brings you monoclonal antibodies, goes back to the facility.
Yeah,
It's like, just for you, sir. We're going to bring it to the beach.
Well, if you say please, you can pretty much get away with anything.
Well, and they also should know that you're the king. So,
Actually, he is, but that's it.
good point.
Yes, literally and metaphorically. But so I ended up getting this treatment, and just a couple days later, I bounced back. And so, flash forward to December of 2022. I'm like, hey, I want to do something that's just beyond anything that I could even fathom. And at the time, I had only done one half marathon during 75 hard. So if you've ever done the program, a lot of people I'm sure are familiar with it. You have to do one outdoor exercise or two exercises. One has to be outdoor. So I still had to do another exercise, even though I did a half marathon in December in Wildwood, a trail half marathon with only 3 weeks of training
You
beforehand.
need a trail?
Yeah.
There's plenty of trail in Wildwood to do that, so I'm not surprised to hear that.
What I'm just blown away by is that you run
Right.
a half marathon on trails.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I call people on their birthdays, and I particularly called a buddy of mine who's a firefighter and who I'm actually going to be doing a century ride with.
Let's go.
In September, and he's just a fantastic friend. And he was like, "Hey, let's do a marathon." I'm like, and so I said, "All right, I'm on Google right now," and I'm like, "Ultra sign up. There's one in 3 weeks." He goes, "Okay, let's do it." I'm like, "Oh, we're gonna do this.
We're actually doing this.
Yeah." So, yeah, I did it. I think it was LaSalle Middle School.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we started at
yeah.
LaSalle, and it was like over 700 feet of elevation, and I'm like, I had no training.
You probably ran through Rockwood reservations.
I hope
would
so.
guess.
Actually, I think he did. Yeah. Because
There were
Oh,
some
yeah.
rocks and woods. So.
Those are brutal trails if you're running for a long time.
Yeah. It's a lot of elevation stuff.
Yeah.
But it's cool back there too, though.
It's
It was
beautiful.
so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very cool.
But my whole thing, my whole mentality, my whole focus, my whole game plan was like, I need to finish this half marathon in less time than it took me to do one dialysis session. So if I can finish this thing I've never run more than 3 miles, in a single run.
Yep.
I'm like, if I can finish this in less time than I did dialysis, it's a success. I finished last place in the men's. I finished third to last overall. So,
But you finished.
Yeah. Oh,
Doesn't matter.
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
still did it. But I was
finish
like,
line.
I was going back, kind of thinking about like, okay, what moment can I think of that pushed me, challenged me both physically and mentally? And it was that half marathon. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do one half marathon a month of 2023.
Badass.
And the purpose of me doing that was so I can raise money for scholarships for transplant patients who are pursuing higher education. So, not limiting it to just a 4-year degree, not limiting it to community college, maybe even trade school. If people are wanting to pursue education, because right now the school system's a little bit not as appealing or as some would argue even as necessary as it used to be. But there are some things that people pursue and are, it's necessary to have that kind of education.
100%.
So, also thinking back, like, when is the time that I felt the lowest? It was during dialysis. It was at the time where I even contemplated taking my own life because of the comparison. I kept comparing myself to other people because you grew up with these people for 18 years and you're completely off.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I'm feeling that way, I'm sure somebody else is feeling that way too. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to do, another thing about, excuse me, is that not only my father, but my parents told me, is like, you do what you're going to say what you're going to do, and do what you're going to say. And I'm like, all right, I got to do some sort of accountability. I got to do some sort of and social media was how I got my transplant. Social media is how I am an advocate for organ donation. It's how I, help people. I've connected with people internationally who have gone through the same process. But I'm like, all right, if I post it, internet's forever. Might as well make it a good show.
It's a phenomenal tool for that. Social media really is. If you use it in the right way, like you were talking about right now, it's wonderful for connecting with a lot of people.
Oh, it's fantastic. I've had some of the best conversations. And so started in January, and it was January 21st was my first one. And then the next day, yeah, boys dropped into my life.
We came out of nowhere.
Absolutely. I didn't even know you existed before that. And
That's actually, I might have seen you on some of Mark's. That's the only time I maybe had seen you before that.
yeah, because he came out, and it was like 2-hour notice.
Yep.
He said,
Had you been on the news before that?
I think earlier, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's
News Channel 5.
Yep. 100%. I had seen Mark post about that on his social.
He's a celebrity.
Yeah. This guy's on the news. MSNBC had him on.
Oh.
Chuck Todd and him talked.
We did.
How high their testosterone was.
Oh, man.
Well, JT has that high T, so we're,
That's it.
You balance Chuck out.
oh, God, yes. But, it's a grueling process because you only have a month between. You only have a couple weeks, so it's like, hey, once one is finished, you can't really celebrate, relax, because a couple weeks later, you're back on it.
Yeah.
And so it forces myself to pay attention to recovery, sleep, diet. And while running these half marathons, I did a bodybuilding show, just casual.
Badass.
It was
No coach or anything.
That left bicep vein is popping out over there too.
Yeah.
I think the after effects are
Saying
still
what's
lingering
up.
with you, eh?
Saying what's up.
well, I hate
He did the 100 curls on his. By the way, he's doing a challenge, guys, and he can talk about that a little bit. But you did the 100 curls before you came here, didn't you? You saved him today instead of the morning. Did the 100 curls for this, so you get a little pump going.
I can't lie because I already posted it at 7 a.m.
Damn, you're right.
Because that's when I run my 5K, 100 curls, and 100 squats. But this actual vein right here on my left bicep, it traces down into where they stuck me for dialysis. So what they did is they sewed a vein and an artery together to create this target, basically, where you can just like a super highway.
Super highway.
Yeah.
That's a dope way to
Yeah, no.
say it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for a while, I would shave half of my arm. I don't shave my legs like Wurtz does, but I shaved half my arm because,
I do.
Because while on dialysis, you're getting tape put on bandages. So it's like,
Sure.
you just rip my hair out. So, I put numbing cream on, and then eventually I was like, all right, fuck it, no numbing cream. So I just took
Savage mode.
like when they stuck me, I had no numbing cream. They would just stick the needles in. And I would just be like, all right, let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So I was like preparing for battle. So I was like, I'm kind of crazy because every morning I wake up knowing that dialysis is somewhere out there saying, well, shit, he's up again. I'm like, yup.
Dude, it's probably terrified of you, to be completely honest with you. You whooped its ass.
Yeah, again and again, every single day. But yeah, I'm running a half marathon. And so, I've been very blessed to have, Gabel join me on a couple of these half marathons.
February and June.
Yep. He doesn't have to do it. It's all voluntary. And so, because I'm going to do it no matter what. I made a promise. I made a commitment. Still waiting for Wurtz to join me on one. I have a couple. I have some.
I was waiting for that.
Some Uncrustables waiting for him.
Yeah.
With his name on. We'll do grape. We'll do strawberry. But, it's been such a just process of just testing myself and proving myself right. And, I've been, again, all of the donations are voluntary. I have a link in my Instagram bio. I use Give, Send, Go. The name of the scholarship is Brighter Days Ahead, because that's what the phrase that helped me get through this process was, it was a phrase of hope, because I knew that my circumstance wasn't forever, and that eventually one day my life is going to change for the better, but I don't know what it is. So we always have to prepare for that. And so, I've been doing that, and I actually met my financial goal in June on my 9-year transplant anniversary. Ran a half marathon, was in the most pain. I cramped up as bad as I did.
It was so hot out too. It was so hot out.
I just didn't prepare. I wasn't hydrated properly. I didn't have the correct electrolytes.
It's hard to correctly prepare in that type of weather too. But you can do it, but it's hard. It's very hard to do. So there's no shame on you for that, because that was brutal weather out there.
I cried, but I'm just like, and then at the end I was just saying, I just kept saying 9 years, 9 years. I'm like, all this is just worth it. And
Let's
so, but again, I raised my goal. It's like, well, I didn't say I'm going to run until I raise my goal, which was just $1,000. I wanted to give like 2 $500 scholarships, or, if the more the merrier, so to speak. But I'm like, no, I still got 6 more half marathons to run.
All the way through.
July, I actually did a PR. I ran my fastest half marathon so far. It's like a month after going through the most pain in a run.
Weird how that works.
What was the time?
2 hours and 51 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Which
Hammered it.
Yeah. And, the moment I knew that I was still in pain, hit my pace, and I was fired up. I still am fired up, but I can't really be too fired up because I still got to have half marathon number 8 coming up
Yeah.
in a couple weeks.
But I mean, it's almost like you can be continuously hyped about it because you're like, oh, I can do better this month.
Yeah.
I can still show up this month. I can show up this month. And I'm probably going to keep showing up after this too. More than likely knowing you.
Oh gosh.
Well, and like you said earlier too, because there's such a quick turnaround between each one, there's no time really to relax in between those.
Yeah.
You have to start preparing immediately, for that next one. So I think that probably helps too, staying amped up, staying, quote unquote excited and whatnot. And, there obviously is an excitement to it for you. But I would say that's why, because that quick turnaround.
Yeah. And getting the feedback and the support, that people have. Like, there are people internationally, our buddy Louis in France, like he's a huge supporter and just really believes in my cause and my story and just me. So it's like, if I have people like that in my corner, like, how can I not succeed? How can I not win?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, for this month, I went back on the crazy. I'm on the crazy train right now. Call me Ozzy Osbourne, because I'm
so we know that one.
Yeah. All right. You guys still have some wisdom.
We're a little cultured.
Here and there.
Absolutely.
He's like, not at all. Not whatsoever. Don't lie to yourself, guys.
We'll give you a couple years and you'll be here.
Yeah.
Couple.
Do you know one thing that I've actually been kind of sitting on a little bit, because you mentioned Louis as one person and just like a bunch of people. The whole time you've been talking about people that have basically been, you said, what did you say? You said that haven't let you quit. Mm-hmm. You've been around people that haven't let you quit. Mm-hmm. I was actually listening to a podcast recently. I forgot what it was called, but it talked about exactly that. It's like, because people talk about being self-made and I had to do this thing by myself and whatnot. When in reality, there's always people helping. There's always, it's not just you running this half marathon. It's not just you pushing through dialysis.
Yeah.
It's those around you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Helping you to continue going day by day by day, which is pretty phenomenal. And I think, because we even talked about the loneliness crisis a while back in an episode, and it shows that if you really build that community around you, I mean, you don't even have the option to be better.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, I try to express gratitude, for just everybody in my life. And I want people to, because I feel like people can get so focused on themselves that they don't understand or realize just like the significant impact that they have on people's life, just by whether it's a text, whether it's like a smile, whether it's just a conversation, a DM, whatever, a phone call, just you never know what impact that has on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I said earlier, is I'm doing a lot of cool things, but I'm not doing it alone. And I try to constantly have that be the forefront of, on social media, where you have a lot of people, it's very self-centered. It's very attention. It's a, hey, look at me. It's like, I'm the exact
attention
opposite.
Society. Yeah.
Exactly. But I'm just like, every chance I get, I want to be able to highlight the people that have helped me. And so it's like, if you think about it, like Harriet Tubman didn't get famous because she brought people to freedom once. She went back and brought more. Like that's the kind of the attitude is like, I've made it to this point, but I can go back and get more.
Yep.
I can give more and I can be more.
Sounds like the shirt you wear during your half marathons. Who owns that brand?
So that is a guy named Jeff Lavecchio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's. I think he might have been a guest on here.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember that episode, to be completely honest with you.
Well, it's because I met him on that day too. I met him on January 22nd, and I met you. I also met Murph, who was just ran into him, and just said, hey, would love to have you document it. So like,
Murph's the man.
I cannot say enough good things about him.
Yep.
Because what he's been able to do and his support for this project that I'm doing, because it's like, again, it's not about me.
And what he does helps you showcase that.
Right.
It's not only about
Right.
you.
I probably wouldn't have as many people donating if it wasn't for like the quality of work that he does.
So true.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's like you can make like just a static post, just a picture, and like it's easily to be swiped. But if you have something that's a quality content, something visually appealing, something emotionally triggering, something that can get people like hooked in emotionally, and people can get support like behind that, like that makes a big difference too.
Absolutely.
And so it's one of those things where like I hate to say it, but like I'm already visualizing myself in December finishing that last half marathon. I'm already like, I've already seen myself.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be snowing or not because with Missouri winters, you never know.
It'll be 75 that day, probably.
Who knows? Yeah.
But it's like, I can already see myself doing that. But yeah, with Jeff, you talk about like the value that he brings to other people as a coach, with his information and his whole, the give more, be more, like that attitude is like, it's like, if you serve others, you're going to be taken care of.
Applies so well to the conversation we're having right now.
And
Applies so well.
so it's like, I told him, I was like, man, I would love to like, hey, can I have one of your shirts? Like, I'd love to like buy one of your shirts. He's like, dude, take one. I'm like, it's like, if you see me running, I'm
Such a
wearing that
good
shirt.
dude.
If I'm wearing that shirt, because I only wear it whenever I'm doing the half marathons. I never wear it.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I only wear it when I'm running half marathons.
Love it.
So it's
That's
like,
awesome.
so I want people to know if you see me wearing it, I'm running. If I'm running, I'm wearing that shirt.
Yeah.
And so it's like, with that message, it's like also kind of giving attention to his brand,
Sure.
his cause, and the value that he brings to others. Because like, I'm a direct recipient of the value that he brings. As a leader, as a member of the community. Like, I don't even play hockey. Last time I played hockey was NHL 2011 on a PS3.
2011? Man, those I had to stop playing after 2014 because those games were miserable.
Well,
that's a whole
obviously.
another conversation.
But that's the last time I played hockey was a PS3 NHL 2011.
sounds
with Pavel
like
Datsyuk.
we're going skating.
Okay.
Mhm.
I can do that.
Yep. We're ripping. Not going to Steinberg though, because you'll fall over that ice. 'cause
No, that's a date spot. I'm not going to hold your hand either.
why not?
Damn.
Caught him in a corner now, ladies and gentlemen.
He's homophobic.
Hey, I don't fear death. I don't fear anything. I can't. It's not a phobia.
Oh, man. All right.
Oh man, I love this dude.
I definitely want to talk about this next topic here.
Please, yes.
Before we hang it up here, because you sent something to both of us on Instagram talking about how unvaccinated people were not being given kidneys when they were on the transplant list from vaccinated people, I believe is how it was. Is that correct?
They were denied transplants because of their vaccination status.
Status, just in general.
Entirely.
Yeah.
Correct.
So what are your thoughts on that?
It is a crime against humanity. It is not based in science. It's not based in reality. It's not based in statistics. It's not based in data. Because, there are a small caveat. There are certain vaccinations that you have to have that have been around for casually 50, 60 years, who have
Yep,
gone
sure.
through the testing, who have been proven, have a track record.
100%.
Right.
And you have this other therapeutic that just hit the market. We don't know the effects are, which now we're seeing some of those, and we're seeing the efficacy. We're seeing how we were lied to. We're seeing how we were manipulated. Because the reason why I only got 2 is because I saw what was happening to other people when they got the additional doses,
Sure.
which was terrifying.
I'm sure.
And
it was.
so it's like, it gets me thinking, like saying, like, well, what's going to happen to me in 5 years? Because I took the first 2 doses.
Just because of the first 2. Yeah.
I'm like, because that's
It's a scary thing. Yeah.
right. So it is on my mind, and my fiance, she hasn't gotten vaccinated, and it's like,
Stud.
I love her even more. Like, she is. One thing I can say, she enriches my life beyond all measure, beyond my capacity, beyond my comprehension. And what I love about her the most is that she can think for herself. She's a very rational person, and she sticks by her decisions. She sticks by me, and that was a decision.
Oh, I've seen that in person at the half marathons.
And it's
100%.
But it is so unbelievable that you would deny somebody a second chance at life, literally, because there are about right now 17 to 20, up to even 30 people a day die waiting for a transplant on the list.
A day?
A day. 17 people a day who are even eligible to be on the list. Some people, because of their health, aren't even eligible to be on the list because of certain parameters. Whether they're overweight, obese, have multiple comorbidities. It's like, so we don't even know. Like, it could be upwards of 30 people a day
100%.
die. And when you're denying somebody a chance at life, and I can experience on what that's like, it just makes me so mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what the differentiation here is, I wanted to point out, was what you just said. There are some vaccinations that have been around for 50, 60 years. Okay, cool.
You have the sample, you have the testing, you have the
Sure.
But again, it's been in the short period of time that the vaccine's been around, it's been proven that at minimum it's ineffective.
right.
So
Yeah, right. Because of the amount of people that were still getting COVID that were vaccinated.
and if not deadly, as we were
Well,
just
yeah,
mentioning
right.
a little bit too, and
Right. Or cardiac arrest in 18-year-old athletes
exactly.
Bronny James.
Bronny James.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, obviously
We don't know.
We don't know, but it can
you can't-
certainly be implied.
But how can you rule it out? You can't rule it out either.
You can't rule it out. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it kind of gets me thinking. It's like when people, because I have been outspoken consistently over social media, and I've been attacked by people close to me, my family, close to my donor, like who have called me out and saying, you're dangerous. Because I'm saying, hey, people should be able to have a choice. People shouldn't be compelled to take this. People shouldn't be denied transplants because of this.
Right.
And I also I put it in the conversation. I was like, well, what if it was me who said, hey, I'm not so sure about this, because if you buy a car, you don't just automatically buy the first car. You go out, have a test drive. You're an educated consumer. You check, the prices, you check this, that, the other. You buy everything else in your life. You're an educated consumer.
Yep.
But when it comes to this, you're supposed to, without a doubt,
Just trust.
Just get in line.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, what would people
Yep.
think
Roll
of?
up the sleeve. Get
Yeah.
the arm ready.
I mean, if I was not vaccinated and was a little bit more hesitant and didn't want to commit fully to this, would you still feel the same way? Would it be okay if I died waiting for a transplant?
Right.
Exactly.
That's the only argument that you need.
Yeah.
You see firsthand the benefits, the joy, and the life that I've experienced because of organ donation. You want to deny that from that person because of the choices that they make?
Right.
Go to hell.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
go to hell.
Yeah.
And again, like we've said, complications with COVID are higher in the vaccinated than they are in the unvaccinated. So your medication that you're denying people transplants for doesn't work.
And they don't care.
Yeah.
And they don't
What
care.
are we talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, guys, we continue to talk about this stuff too, because it's not like it's going away. We know this set a precedent,
Yeah.
if we're being honest, for future issues.
Well, and they keep trying
Yes.
to talk about COVID-19 spikes and stuff.
Exactly.
And they're trying to, and I think honestly that Andy or maybe even DJ said it, but it's just trying to get temperature checks on the population. Okay, what are they going to react to? Is it COVID? Is it World War III? Is it something climate related?
It's a BLM riots.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, another George Floyd type situation. What is it? I think for the most part, pretty much everyone is just done with COVID. Like, hey, it doesn't work anymore. But then you do stuff like this, and it's like, how do we not get emotional about it?
Yeah. What I found most ironic was after the Roe v. Wade, and they're saying "my body, my choice." I'm like, where was that same energy
Yeah,
for the
right.
people who decided to, hey, this is my medical decision.
Exactly.
This is my body.
Right.
It's like it's a bunch of hypocrites who really don't care about you.
No, not one bit.
And so, like, I'm going to continue to speak up, and hopefully, with the platform that you have, I can, have my voice as someone affected by that community and who has benefited from organ donation. It's like, I mean, honestly, I would love to share my experience and my testimony eventually, maybe with Andy. Like, I'm kind of wanting to speak that into existence
You will.
on his platform.
Yeah.
You will.
Yeah.
Because I'm the demographic that they wanted to shelter in place, but I had a different perspective. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I'm not going to let this one virus be different than the other handful that could be potentially fatal.
Right.
Instead, you're going to take proactive steps to take care of your health.
Personal excellence. That's
right.
rebellion.
That's
Seems to match with the message a little bit.
Yeah. Just trying to live those values.
Dude, I love it. Wow, that was phenomenal.
That was fantastic. I mean, JT, you are by far one of the most inspiring people that not only I've met, that
Without a
we've
doubt.
met. You know, it's an honor to call you a friend. It's an honor to have you here with us tonight. You've been to our men's nights. You've been a part of that. You had a great interview on the Ruck men's night.
Drives a Tesla, but still a cool guy.
drives a Tesla,
you know,
yeah, right.
Right. Yeah.
But, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I'm also honored to be on here as well. And what you guys are doing, what you guys are building, the effort that you put in, it's not going unnoticed. It's necessary. It's like, looking back, if I had some like guys like you 7 years ago, because that's how much older I am than you, what up? It's like what you guys are doing, you were setting a foundation, you're setting an example, like you were setting an influence as well. So it's like, I feel honored to call you my friend too. And we always have fun. We always have good conversation. It's like, that's what we need to have, this kind of community that we can come together and just elevate together. And so it's like, you guys just have an equal impact on my life as well. So it's like, it's not just a one-sided thing. I'm honored to be a guest. It's very nice of you to say those things, but
Appreciate that, JT.
we got a long way to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Last thing, where can everyone find you on Instagram?
You can find, so JT stands for John Thomas, but I'm a goofball. And so my Instagram handle is JONTOMIS. So it's the phonetical spelling of John Tom is. Or you can find me as well. I'm also starting a nonprofit organization called The Oregon Trail.
Yep.
So it's at The Oregon Trail 2023, where I'm documenting some of these physical endurance events because I'm suffering for life. So I'm going to continue these, not only just the half marathons, but next year eventually I want to either train for a 100-mile run. I want to train me for a full marathon, whichever comes first.
Don't tempt us.
All right.
We've been thinking about it.
I know you'll help, but we'll see if Wurtz shows up.
Oh, man.
Right to the gut. Oh, wow.
Okay.
But
Okay.
We're going to need to extract around, ladies and gentlemen.
But here's the thing: there is so much room for many people on the Oregon Trail. That's
That is so good.
There was.
room for everyone.
Man, that is phenomenal.
This guy's just good with the words.
I swear, if somebody doesn't give this man public speaking gigs, I'm going to riot.
You'll be talking on Real AF in no time. There's no doubt in my mind.
100%.
No doubt in my mind.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, so I still got to do half marathon number 8 first.
That's right. That's right.
Damn right. Damn right, ladies and gents.
All right, guys. That is going to be season 3, episode 18 with Mr. JT Thomas, probably the most handsome guy we've had on the podcast.
Man, the other guys are going to be pissed.
Yeah, that's
Well, all I'm going to say that beard growth didn't go unnoticed.
That's right.
Yeah.
hey. Well, thank you.
Guys, find any way you can to support JT. Follow him and
Please.
his Oregon Trail account on Instagram. Find a way to get out to these half marathons. I promise you I am. You said, say what you're going to do what you're going to say. Okay? I will be out there. There's no doubt about it. You guys should join us and just continue to support us, continue to support him. Share the show, guys. This is a very, very important episode to get out. People need to hear his message, hear his story, because it is one of the most inspiring ones that you can possibly hear.
Absolutely.
So, guys, JT, one more time, thank you very much for being here. Guys, until next time, peace and love.
Thanks, ladies and gents.